Thanks for staying with us. So over the last few days, we've witnessed a prolonged debate on social media. As you know, no major conversation is complete without the perspective of the ladies of YourView here. So we're asking, do children from privileged backgrounds have a greater chance of succeeding than those from disadvantaged or low-income backgrounds? Let's share some real-life experiences related to this topic. What are your own thoughts? Does privilege boost chances of success? We'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions on this matter. Let's also explore the complexities of this issue together, because some people will say, when you come from a rich home, it gives you a platform to stand on. Others says, if you come from a poor home, it gives you the resilience or the drive to push further. So which do you believe? Join the conversation on the numbers on your screen: 020-163-52013, 090-241-63440. You can also send us messages on X and also on YouTube. We'll be happy to read your thoughts. So, rich kids. So we had the NEPO baby that you were talking about earlier, kids born from privileged homes. And then we're told that there's LAPO, which is the poorer kids. And then there's the NEPO, I think, which is supposed to be the middle class. These terms, I'm not even sure how they came about. But in your view, what do you think about this topic? Let me start with you. Do you think somebody who comes from that privileged background has a better standing? Or that doesn't really determine the level of the success they achieve in life?
So if you come from privilege, you have a better standing. However, it doesn't determine your success, because it's not just about your foundation. You know, success has a lot to do with grit. It has a lot to do with what you want out of life. It has a lot to do with your path. I mean, I like to, when these kind of issues come out, I like to just look at it from the angle of destiny, right? Because I have seen people who came from very poor homes, who barely survived, you know, find their way around life and make it. And I've also seen people who came from real privilege. When I'm talking privilege, I'm not talking about politicians, because that's where we always cast our minds. I'm talking about people who put in the work, right? And I've seen people who still come out from such homes and they don't care about the things many people care about. They just want to live a simple life, and they're not pursuing the sort of success you expect. Let's take, for instance, their father had a name like a Dangote. You would expect that maybe a Dangote's son should, have a bigger name. But I've seen that many a times, the Dangote name stands as the big name, and then every other child that comes under struggles to even meet up to that level of success. And that is also what takes me to what is our definition of success. What I see privilege does for many children who come is that it gives them an array of choice. There's a book I read from time to time, The Science of Getting Rich, Wallace D. Wattles. And in that book, he says that everything that you have been given, every talent that you have, requires money to bring it to the finest version, right? If I am interested in singing, and I grew up in a home where my father bought me the keyboard, they put me in singing classes, blah, 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 it will help me fine-tune the natural talent that I have. And I can now choose to either take it far or just have fun with it and drop it, right? But if I had come from a home where I didn't have that privilege, I may find my way, if that is my line to toe, but I would struggle in finding, how do I get a keyboard? How do I get practice? How you see people sleeping in the studio? They just have to make this work at all costs. So privilege gives you that array of choice. You can choose. We have children today who say, today I'm doing basketball, tomorrow I'm not doing, tomorrow I'm doing this, today I'm not doing, because there is an array of choice. Now, in that choice, you can now decide, according to your background, if you have, for instance, entrepreneurial parents who you see them put in the grind. You can have 3 children, for instance, and they are seeing you put in the grind, and one of them just decides that, I just want to be lying down on my bed and be a kept wife. And they came from privilege. So it's about what you want out of life. It's about the path that you're supposed to tour in that life. The privilege may assist you or not assist you, depending on how you take it.
I hear that. But when you talk about choices, isn't that the idea of choices also gives people that, I think what I was trying to say is that when you don't have a lot of choice, you're laser focused on one thing, and that pushes you further. Because maybe the issue of choices is even the problem. I mean, but let me come to you, Mariam. What are your thoughts?
Okay. Yeah, so whether we like it or not, being born into privilege offers you access to the world, to anything. True. And also depending on how privileged you are. Why do you think they say that some people won the genetic lottery or the just lottery at life? Is that when you came out and you opened your mouth and cried, many things were already sorted for you. And you know what is so rare about it is there's usually a 1% of the whole world that get that sort of privilege and access. So let us recognize it for what it is, that there are some people without any doing of theirs, nothing, they were just born, but they were born into privilege. That exists. It opens doors for you. And for many people who say, but it does not guarantee anything. The truth is, it guarantees that at least you have a decent life. Even if you don't push for success, when you fail, you will fail into luxury at home. You can never be hungry. You can never be hungry. You can never be angry. There's something that my friend used to say when we were growing up. I used to wonder where she got it from. She'll be discussing, you talk about people, she said, that one, they come from a house that they didn't need to lie. I just wonder why. Anytime you see someone from a privileged home, you say, this one, they didn't need to lie. I say, you didn't need to lie to survive. You didn't need to lie about what you really wanted to do. You have the access and the privilege to be anything you want to do. To wake up when you want to wake up, and to go to sleep when you want to go to sleep. To be with whoever you want to be with. To try to go to school wherever you want. To decide to be as powerful or as successful as your parents, Mariam, or to be less than.
Isn't that self-destructive?
No.
Let me tell you why it's self-destructive. Because somebody had suffered or somehow to get you to the point, that point. Yeah. Now, when you do that, you're not producing anything. You're not creating a new thing. Yeah. You're self-destroying, because in your own mind, I am enjoying, I can do, because you now have kids. And then the next generation, before you know it, there's poverty right back, because you are just self-destroying.
That is another level. That is, as we discuss it, that will come up. But I just want us to recognize that there's some people that have a privilege maybe their parents did not even have. So this is something that a parent can be looking at a child, realizing I did everything for you. And also maybe their children will not have. It's a privileged position to be in, and just very few people have that. Now, does this mean that they become that life would never work out for them? Yes, there's some people that have misused their opportunities. True. But sadly, this group of people, it may not even be them that will feel the direct impact. It may just be those behind them, their next generation, who will know that their grandfather or great-grandfather did so much for them, and their parents. I'm telling you, because somehow I feel like I was meant to be one of those. So what happened? I don't know.
That angel that was in charge of your life.
We come back, we hear the Turquoise views. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. We're still discussing this issue of coming from a privileged home versus not having that privileged background, of people coming from a poor or disadvantaged communities, and what kind of opportunities are available to them. And is it a good thing to identify with privilege or poverty? Because poverty does gives you that drive to achieve beyond your imagination. But let me come to you, Talk. What are your thoughts on this?
I don't agree that poverty gives you the drive to achieve anything great.
Thank you.
I strongly believe that poverty limits the reach you can have because you cannot even see the possibilities.
Bam.
So the middle class have an advantage because they might not be as rich as NEPO, they are not as poor as LAPO. So at that place, they can still see opportunities because they can see the rich and aspire and be driven to achieve that kind of success. And they can see the poor and say, I would never go there. But you see, when people have nothing, there's no other option. Like there's no place, I can't fall below where I am. When people have nothing, it's easy to take advantage of them. It's easy to buy their womb, to buy their sperm, buy their kidney, buy their life. They kill each other, buy their mind. With a kilo of rice, they will buy their mind. So when we think that poverty would give people drive, it means that it will give them drive to do anything to achieve the barest minimum, because they cannot even believe it is possible to go higher. It is why it is important that we create this level playing ground for everybody, so that there is access to education, because the only thing that can bring opportunity and growth is if everybody has access to quality education. Education breeds exposure. What NEPO has, that's the people that are extremely wealthy, is that they have quality education and they have quality freedom network. They have those two. The middle class might not have the network, but they will have quality. They will struggle to give their children quality education. The education gives them leverage. And if we look at the wealthiest, there was a time in the world, maybe like 100 years ago, when you take census of wealthy people around the world, they are all from abject poverty. But because they were in countries and environments that gave access to education, they became very wealthy. But in this world of today, if you look at the wealthiest people in the world right now, none of them were from poverty. None, Morayo, none of the wealthiest in the world, today, statistically, were from poverty. But 100 years ago, the Carnegies were from poverty. Ford was poverty, like ridiculous poverty. But they were able to rise because they had access to education and that drive. While now, what we have is, if you do not have access to education, quality one, and a little bit of money to buy that comfort, there's crisis. So the expectation is that if we want change, if we want a country that appreciates and encourages the productivity that is available, the creativity available in all Nigerians, we need to make that opportunity for education available to everybody. If not, the creativity will be to be killing somebody and to be stealing from the other person.
Let me take this call from Hassan. We're holding for a minute. Good morning, Hassan. You're live. Thanks for calling you.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Hassan, that's awesome.
Go ahead.
My own view on the subject matter is, I tend to look at the student from a low background and having an edge. Because right from the word go, they know they don't have. As such, they will have that desire to excel in whatever field they decide to embark on. While on the other hand, those from a well-to-do background, though they have the key, the assets, wealth is the key or asset, they tend to slack. And at a point, the wealth will not become a hindrance. So, in summary, I feel the children that are coming from a low background, if mentored properly, have better chance to excel than those coming from a well-to-do background. So that's my own view. And in conclusion, please, I want to appeal to Madam Tope. She keep organizing programs in Lagos. What about we in Jos? Dr. Kolawole Ojo at one time brought Tade Cash to Jos. He spent 3 powerful days in Jos. So, Mariam, you are our representative.
I will tell her.
Fantastic. You've given her the clues. She'll try for it. So, you see, there's something I like to bring out here, because we somehow, and I don't think we're doing it here though, we demonize poverty like, oh, it's a horrible thing. Sometimes poverty catapults you or pushes you to a point where you feel that there's something better. It gives you that inherent drive to say there's something better, because we make it look as if once you're poor, it is the worst thing that can happen to you. But poverty actually can be flipped, because everybody who was those we were talking about earlier, that people who are rich, some had that level of poverty, and they actually aspired because they wanted to solve a problem at that time, and they realized that life can be better than where they are. So if we continue to demonize it, maybe therefore people will just rather just hide in their cocoon. They'll come and say, you know what, I need help.
Okay, so let me tell you why, as noble as this sounds, is simplistic, because you're looking at poverty as just the lack of money. But it's beyond that. It's because that lack of money comes with a lot of other social ills and challenges that you have to go through. And you're also looking at wealth or privilege as just money. So let's say, have you heard of those names that maybe they are great-grandparents, maybe they had so much money, but the money isn't there, but yet they're able to walk into places and doors are open just because of that name. That's what privilege does for you. That's the sort of wealth we're talking about. That it supersedes just that material money. You have built network, you have built support, you have built influence. Poverty denies you of everything.
Thank you.
It denies you of the financial money. It denies you of social standing. It denies you of confidence. Do you understand? That is what real poverty does. And where Tokwe talked about people who have come like generations past, and she's talking of America definitely, because in today's world in Nigeria, many people have come from poverty. But I was just trying to say where it made a difference then. Education came, was introduced, and that gave some people a leverage to stand on. Where they could not stand on family name, they could not stand on money, they would stand on education. And so that's where we are today, that if you give a poor person education, you have enriched that person. That person is no longer absolutely poor. So that's part of that wealth we were talking about. Now, you talk of those who have raised themselves out of poverty. It's usually, if you hear their stories, it's usually an encounter, either with a wealthy, and I'm not talking actual money, person or experience or something. I remember this book I read, and the mother worked as a nanny in the house of the rich, and she saw how they read books, how their children read books. She learned that thing that privileged people were doing, and she introduced it into her poor home. Now that seed from there is what helped open the doors. Her children began to read, and they now grew up to be successful people. So poverty itself should be demonized, should be, and it should be demonized in the sense, not demonized and say poor people are bad, but it should ring in our system, in our leaders' minds, that it's such a terrible place to be, and whatever it is that we can provide to give people a platform that they can raise themselves out of that, that's what we need to do.
Okay, let me take this call. I'll come to you, BC. Good morning. Thanks for calling. You're live. Okay, I think I lost that call. Go ahead.
Poverty is a demon. You can't even run away from. Let's call it what it is, because it rapes your mindset. Someone who has the mindset of poverty would constantly be in survival mode. And what do you do when you're surviving? It's dog eats dog. We even see it in the midst of rich people who have somewhat gotten that material wealth, but they're still poor in their mindset. And they're still, how do you explain somebody who is amassing wealth for generations upon generations, yet unborn? Irrespective of the fact that that wealth is supposed to go around and cater to the people that you are seeing, you are saving for generations. It's poverty of the mindset. So poverty is just, like Marian rightly said, beyond the physical cash in your pocket. It rapes you to the extent where you can sell your body parts just because you want to survive. You can push anybody down just because you want to survive. That is not the world that we're trying to build. So poverty should be demonized. And one of the best ways, like Tokwe rightly mentioned again, to lift people out of poverty. And that's why you see there's a difference between the developed world, like they like to call themselves, with us. When you come there, you see that there's a level playing field for the majority of the people, right? Now, people can now find jobs that they love doing without any form of pressure. That is what wealth gives to you. An opportunity to choose. You decide, okay, I want to be a chef. Nobody is chasing me. I want to go for my dreams. And I'm going to be fulfilled doing my dreams, right? Poverty does not give you that. You find yourself getting into different things that rip you of your health, your mental well-being, just because you want to survive and build something. So when it okay,
let me go on a short break, because I think there's a part of this getting me. Let me go on a very short break. When we come back, I'll try to explain better. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. So we're still discussing this rich privilege versus people coming from the poor homes. And I wanted us to bring the conversation back to the wealthy, because some could argue that because you're born into privilege does not mean, it does not guarantee you'll be successful. Some argue that the fact that you're even born into privilege is in itself a problem, because then it doesn't make you fight or struggle, or it doesn't give you the drive to achieve much more than your parents, because you have the basics of life. You won't want to research that ant that BC was talking about earlier, because you don't need to research the ant. You have every single thing. So in that view, now, does it then cause that self-destruction I talked about earlier? or is there a way that can actually springboard you into greater wealth?
I feel that I was having a conversation with someone, and we've discussed this thing a few times on the show, where you say you want to build resilience, you want to build grit. It's simply because we came from lower middle class, we did not have a lot, so we hustled, and we feel like our children must hustle. Are you raising your children to be poor? Or you're raising, like, your children might never use their hands to wash clothes. They would always have washing machine, they would always have lights. Like, there's some things that doesn't just happen. So we're just trying to find a way to see the negativity in being wealthy. Greed is bad. Greed is bad.
And it cuts across.
Taking, whether you are rich or poor, it is bad to be greedy. Taking what does not belong to you is bad. Whether you are rich or poor. But being financially comfortable opens you up for a lot of creativity. So I read the story about Nightingale, Florence Nightingale, this nurse that was from a wealthy family and decided to be a nurse because she did not have to marry. If she did not marry, her parents would not die. They would like her to marry, but she said no. She had a choice because she wasn't from poverty. And based on her ability to dedicate her time and take resources from her parents to nurse people in the war, she discovered that she could save more lives if they kept the hospital clean. Cleanliness now brought life being saved. Many scientists that we are enjoying their benefits now came from aristocracy. They had the flexibility to be studying botany. They were looking at butterflies and studying animals. We were able to enjoy the benefit because they did not have to worry about what to eat or drink. Food was covered. So they could explore other creativity. And you know, what we have in Nigeria is that people that are wealthy are not dedicating their time and their life to use the wealth to say, I want to study. They're not wealthy enough. So I want to study how we can do this. I want to study because we don't have that culture. So we need to re-educate people's mind that what wealth has given you is freedom to impact lives.
True.
Not to start dominating everybody and say, I'm powerful, I have money, I can do and undo. I can drive one way, I have escorts in front at the back. I can jump the queue. That is what we do with our wealth in Nigeria. That is the lowest level of wealth. It's a wealth that still has poverty mindset.
God bless you.
The real wealth is for you to solve your problems.
And there's a saying.
I'll come to you. Come on, Olumide, you're live. Thanks for calling here. Olumide, you're live. Go ahead, please.
All right. Thank you. You see, I want to say that poverty, in my own analogy, is a disease. And it is infectious. You see, one of the cause agents of poverty is greed. You know, it is infectious. We're talking about shared criminality, then shared laziness. Well, if I give me time, I will explain. You see, being a disease and being a shared one is that if you as a billionaire had a mindset to solve problems within your environment, because poverty is indeed an infectious one, so likewise, wealth is still infectious. You will make your immediate environment cured of poverty.
That's what we preach.
Now, it is indeed a very, very infectious one when you as a billionaire determine not to stop that disease. You can be poor to, going back to what your colleague just said, that people use their wealth in a negative way, creating more problems, whereby creating poverty. So when we see poverty as a disease, as an infectious one, and when we see ourselves being an agent of cure to poverty, we will start, creating opportunities and creating procedures and processes that will heal the disease. So diseases, they are infectious, they are poverty, and we can solve it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy we're coasting this way because that was what I was trying to achieve in trying to drive this narrative of what poverty is. Because it reminds me of the fact that many of us in this country are so poor, all we have is money. It's so, because our mindset is so poor that when we now get the physical cash, we're not thinking of development because the countries we run to, Many of them, it was the poor people that actually, because there's no government can actually just say, I'm going to develop, I'm going to build this. It is private sector that comes together. You know, I remember when I was reading about lottery, when it started, these are things that was private sector driven. The government now said, hold up, you guys are making this much money. They now came in and started to regulate that. You know, we have to take some of this money that you guys are making because the private sector are the one that come with these ideas of innovation. What do we do to bring to boost entertainment? What do we do to develop healthcare? What do we do to help in education? We come up together and do these things, and then government's job is just to provide to facilitate, to ensure that we have enough land, electricity, the power to do those things. But private sector comes with ideas. But here in our own part of the world, we don't think that way. We have a lot of money, and what we want to do is pepper them and have those big parties.
So, you know why? There's a reason for that.
Why?
Yeah, there's a reason for that. When the struggle becomes too much, it rips you of humanity. And that's why we're saying, if you give us a level playing field, the basics, right?
The Maslow hierarchy.
And yes, and we are now deciding to hustle. Maybe Miriam now decides, okay, I want to do this sort of business. I want to solve this sort of problem. She's not coming from a place where she has been ripped out so bad that anything she now gets, she's thinking of her next generation. That's where the problem comes from. So the difference between the Oyibos that we see and admire how they use their own riches for everything is because at the core, everybody is still almost equal. It's still almost equal. It appears so. You can walk into the streets now, you see somebody, a new phone comes out, you go, you exchange.
Everybody can buy it.
Everybody has access. So I'm not coming here to brag that I have the latest phone because everybody has it.
It doesn't make any difference.
It doesn't make any difference. You get into the public transportation, you see everybody take public. In fact, it's cheaper to take the public transport than even driving your own cars. You spend more maintaining your own cars. So when you come from such an environment, and that's why it seems like our children, when they now finally go abroad, they're not as driven as we are when they come back, because they've seen life in such a way that what am I fighting for? I can only pick the things I enjoy doing. They come back and they're not, you see that fire that you are, because I had a couple of friends who are saying that their kids are coming back home now, but she doesn't see that Nigerian drive. They just want to do easy things. This is what I want to do. This is what I love to do. This is my passion. This is my, and they went to the very best of schools. Their mindset is so open that there's nothing to drive. There's nothing to fight for.
My child went to Harvard. Came back, started taking pictures. Like, are you all right?
Okay, now.
Do you know the school you went to?
All right. How much I paid for
camera there. Are you okay?
You see the difference?
There was serious fighting.
You see the difference?
I mean, I'm happy. Eventually, the person started doing other things. But there was a major friction in the house. We went to Harvard for not just those business courses.
Proper school. Thousands of dollars.
Yeah, come back to take camera.
Yes.
Take pictures.
A budget of a whole state.
Thank you.
So understand.
So that's it. So let me just quickly close down here before I come to before Miriam goes. So that's why it seems like it's different. Now, for us to solve the problem, because we admire that rich people are able to use their resources to better the nation, we have to make sure that even the poor are not hustling with their life and needing to sell their soul to get to that riches. Because that's when that happens. That's when you see that, okay, now I've finally gotten on top. Every other person will collect Pepe.
Okay, let me go on a very short because I'll start with you, Mariam. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. So before I come to you, Tokwe, there was a word that while you guys were talking earlier kept coming to me, and I was trying to get the definition of the word dignity. Dignity is an inherent quality of all human beings, irrespective of their financial situation. It encompasses the right to be valued, respected, and treated ethically. Now, where that comes in when it comes to the issue of poverty is because I have experienced situations where somebody who is poor understands where they are. They're not trying to be like you. And they like that you're rich. They like where you are. They understand what it takes to get there, and they realize that they've lost that opportunity. They will hope their children can get that opportunity and be, but they are not interested. Doesn't mean they are what's what I'm looking for. They are upset about your wealth or status. Doesn't mean that they value themselves. They value themselves in who they are because they have those values. But they understand that, okay, for my children to be like you, I'll give them all the support. So those kind of people, you cannot demonize their status, is what I'm trying to say. You cannot say because they are poor, doesn't mean that. So they are poor in certain areas, but they might not be poor in other areas, but they have value for who they are. So those kind of people must also be seen, respected, and understood.
Nobody is disrespecting the poor. The Bible even says the poor will always be amongst us. Poverty is not a crime. It's not. It's just a situation that can be addressed.
Yes.
It's a situation that can be dealt with. And even though I said on a global scale, the wealthiest people in the world globally did not come from poverty. They came from middle class, thereabouts. We've had stories within Nigeria where people came from poverty. I lived under the bridge for a year. I was squatting in the office because Chari's story rings very clear in the mind. Yeah. And if we want to study how people escape from poverty, it is if you want to raise people from poverty, you need to study how they left it. It was by education, not just education that they went to school. Because Charis will always say he did not go to school, but he went to school. He went to the school of understanding the trade. And a lot of Igbos have used it to escape poverty in their own culture. By education, via apprenticeship, they have broken the mindset of poverty. They have exposed the poor to the idea of you can be wealthy this way. You can buy, sell, keep the difference, multiply over and over again, and then multiply that wealth to take yourself away from poverty. It is possible. But it came from exposure and education. And I feel very, very strongly that if we continue to think that anybody poor is okay, that you can be poor, it cannot work, because until you are faced with a health challenge, until you want to buy insulin and the person dies because they can't afford to, in the country we are living in, there is no level playing ground for somebody to afford to say, I'm poor, but I have respect and I have dignity. Until that person needs to buy injection or needs to have an accident and they cannot treat them in the hospital, we need to talk about the fact that there is no level playing ground here. In some countries, you can have dignity in poverty. You can say, I don't have much, but I respect myself. I have enough to eat, to drink. I can get food stamps when I need it. But in Nigeria, there's no food stamp, there's no healthcare. The education self, you will still need to pay a little bit to get the free education that is public. So we need to talk about how to take ourselves out of that place.
Okay, let me take this call from Daniel. Thanks for calling. You're live. Good morning, sir. Go ahead, please.
Okay, good morning. Daniel calling from Mojedu.
Yes.
Welcome to the
show. Go ahead.
All right, what I want to contribute to what you are discussing is that I disagree with forgetting a name that said that poverty will limit someone or blind some things, you know. No. To me, the definition of poverty is not somebody that does not have money.
Okay.
But somebody that has limited himself because of the situation he found himself is a pauper.
Instead of being extremely poor.
That's the way I see poverty.
Okay.
You limit yourself because of the situation you find yourself. I've seen somebody that came to beg somebody for money, and the woman looked at her. The woman said, "See, take this 1,000 naira. Use it to start anything." And that boy used that money to go and begin to sell pure water. I'm telling you, that boy now is an employer of labor. One thing that is causing many of these people is that, one, they don't have patience, and two, they don't want to persevere and endure these hard things that comes their way. We have seen some rich people that have children that live well for them and they squander it. Even Jesus said it in the Bible, like the prodigal son. He squandered it. And there are some people that also have children that are from rich family, but the children say, no, I won't build my own life by my own riches. I want to have my own. And they made it outside their father's riches. And there are also poor people that didn't have anything that come from the scratch and they rise to the top. So everything depends on the mindset of the person.
Okay. Yeah, I agree.
That's it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Can we have a little definition so that we are guided? I know Nigerians, we have a way of defining our own
language.
English language. Yes. So the meaning of poverty is state of being extremely poor. Now the meaning of poor is lacking sufficient money to live at a standard considered comfortable or normal in a society, and that is what should be demonized in a world that is full of abundance. So a world where you can achieve it if you can only see it and believe and work towards it. That's the world that we live in. There's no time you go into the river that you do not see fishes. You would always see fishes. There's no time they've been sand filling, you're taking sand from one point or the other. We've not heard that we have run out of sand. In fact, there are some places in this same world where we are beginning to find new mineral resources. So we live in an abundant world, and so it should be a crime if you cannot even have something that can sustain you in life. And that is where everybody needs to work together. How do we make it easy for people to be able to get to that level where at least the basics are sorted? We sit down here, we say we are not doing a lot of research in this part of the world because everybody's hungry. Obodo Ibo now, I can choose to, I just like that ant. And I want to study that ant. And I will dedicate 20 years of my life studying that ant. Do you know why I can do that? Because I know that when I need food, there's food. I know that when I want to go to point A, point B, there is. Let me try studying ants here now, leave every other thing I want to do, if hunger will not finish me. You rightly mentioned it. Sometimes we have issues, healthcare, we can't even afford. People have sat down and seen their parents die because they cannot afford to buy as little as the malaria medicine. And that's why we must demonize being poor and poverty. We can have the basics, everybody almost middle class, standard of living, quality education here and there. Then that's where we now see people who actually have the drive to do businesses, people who have the drive to succeed in different ways, pick it up and go. Not everybody will be wealthy. Not everybody would be superstars. Not everybody would be privileged. Not everybody, all fingers are not equal. But if we have that standard of living that goes around, that everybody can claim that little dignity that Morayo talked about, things will be a lot easier, and that's how we can develop our nation. So poverty, I repeat, is a crime.
I was just, even our last call, I was going to say, when he talked about the prodigal son who squandered his wealth, he still had the rich daddy to go back to. So that's the difference about this NEPO that we're talking about. True. You still have somewhere, there's still a safety net, but there is absolute poverty, definitely, where it's just, you have nothing. Zero. But I think also a lot of us are discussing relative poverty. So it is relative in comparison to like the average income everybody around you has. You know, is that, yes, I'm able to eat at least once a day, but I cannot pay fees. Or I'm able to, I have a job, but it does not really take me home. I can't pay rent, you know, every time I'm being thrown out. So that's another kind of poverty. But in that sort of poverty, it's not absolute in the sense that there's some things that you have, some skills that you have that takes you, you know, and encourages you to push, you know, from day to day. And a lot of people have been able to pick themselves, I won't say pick themselves up, by sheer grit or chance, you know, coming together, they're able to take themselves from that situation into a new situation. And that is why the story of grace to grass is always a big story. Like, we know how difficult it is to be able to rise from this sort of condition, and you did it. That's why we bring them out, we highlight their stories, and we highlight their stories to encourage others in that situation, knowing how difficult it is, but then just hoping that this story will give someone hope.
Okay, so let me go on the break, because I like us, we've talked quite a bit on poverty part, but I like us to touch on this issue of, does being born in a privileged society really guarantee that you'll be wealthy?
Okay.
Let's go on a short break. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned.
Thanks for staying with us. We're still discussing this matter. Yes, Mary, we're going to say something for the break.
So you took the words right out of my mouth, that some people are so poor that all they have is money. And I think that that's a problem that we have in our country today. Although I can't tell you which comes first, the chicken or the egg, which is it because we came from abject poverty, we became that way, which is no values, no emotional intelligence, no empathy. We just have money and we use it to buy things. We use it to show off. And because of that, we push ourselves with, from greed to get even more and get even money that's meant for, or resources that's meant for our whole community or our country. Instead, we find ways to steal it, acquire it just for ourselves and our family. And what do we do with it? We go out to show it off. And that's all we do, and recycle over and over again. So I can't tell you if it's because we came from abject poverty or that, you know, we are in a society that worships money. And it does not care how you make that money. The fact that you have it, you have people fall over for you. There used to be a time where a person, because of their character or what they did or their profession, they got respect. There were times that teachers got respect for being teachers. It didn't matter what they didn't have materially or what they had. We respected them. We understood the impact that they were making in their world. But now, it does not matter if someone stole your neighbor, you know, stole him blind. You know that that's what that person did, and comes out and he throws that money around and shows up. You appreciate the money, and you call the other person stupid for not able to do that. So for me now, the conversation has to be about materialism again. So this is another form. We hardly talk about it, but this is another way that materialism has affected us, where we are not thinking of what we can do for our society. We're not raising up our children to chase wealth or to chase success for how it impacts their community, how it impacts their society, the good that they can do, but how they can come up and show off to your friends and your friends' children that look at what we have achieved, look at how we look, you know. And so you wonder why some parents are saying that my child doesn't have the drive. And the thing is, your child has seen a different world and is saying, the drive for what? What do you want me to chase really? To chase more houses, to chase more travel? But have you looked around you? Do you see how poor these people are? Why can't I do something that shows my empathy and I'm able to help the world? Because we do come from a country where helping people from really an altruistic place is not really pushed. When we help, we document it, we put it out there because we want to use it to get even more wealth. We want to use it to get more adulation and adoration. So really, the issues that we're dealing with is not the matter of someone from outside or the children not showing interest. Is that we should look inward into our lives. What is it that we have made important and our children have seen differently from that?
Let me call Ola from Abuja. Take the call. You're live, Ola.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just want to quickly contribute a few things to the discussion this morning. You know, what I believe is, and it has been said, everybody has mentioned it, that poverty is a mindset. For me, I speak for myself, I came from a very poor family, but I was able to fight my way. Now, two days ago, you know, somebody was talking about Vodi while he was having his birthday, and everybody was looking at him as a very rich man. But the problem we have in Nigeria is we have not been able to properly define what poverty is. Now, when people see people like me now, they do not see a rich person until somebody gathers everything in the world before we can acknowledge that that person is rich. Sure. But poverty is not a man that does not have money in his pocket, but a man that does not have an idea in his heart. There was a day a pastor told me this thing, and it changed my life. Now, if you go back to the way God created the world, let's go back to Adam. In the Garden of Eden, God made some things available for Adam. And at that point, Adam was a rich man. What did God give him? God gave him shelter. God gave him a garden that provided food for him. God gave him a tree of knowledge of good and evil, which is synonymous to education. God told him to till the ground, which is like a kind of employment. Now, if government can produce the basic, make housing affordable, make health care affordable, make jobs available, if everybody who graduates from a university or who got a skill
would now be at the same pedestal. What now makes you very rich is going to be your drive.
Exactly.
If your drive is now higher than the one of your neighbor, then you can now go
That's
higher.
what we've been saying.
But everybody should now be comfortable at a level. It doesn't mean that it's until when you have all the cars in the world. I have struggled to be able to build a house for myself. Whether the house is good or not is not my problem. Whether that house meets the one inequality, but I have been able to give myself. So I see it's a thing of the mind. If we go by the definition of the dictionary, we will not get it, because people in the Senate, people who are governors, these people have money, but yet when you look at their minds, they are poor.
True.
The way they steal money, the greed, and all of that.
Thank you very much, Ola. Let me let you go at this point. Thank you so much. Let's go on a very short break. When we come back, we'll take a few comments on our social media. I have so many comments here. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
You know, so let me take this comment from Mr. Tijani. He says, good morning, sister. I would like to debunk the notion that people from wealthy or privileged backgrounds always have a better advantage in life. While having resources can provide a head start, it's not a guarantee of success. Many wealthy individuals today build their fortunes from scratch, starting from nothing. In fact, research shows that most successful entrepreneurs and business leaders are self-made, having overcome obstacles and persevered to achieve their goals. Privilege can be a catalyst, but it's not a determining factor. As long as there's life, there's always a possibility of greatness yet to be accomplished. Do you have any comments you want to take from your own end?
Yeah. We have a couple here.
While we're on the break, you guys are talking about, you know, I'm trying to see how to say this in English, but you know, when you have so much money and you become akpa, you know, when you have wealth, and there's nothing else to have. You have all the money, you have everything money can buy. And then instead of you to be progressive, it brings, like, I went back to this way of self-destruct. I've not really touched on it because sometimes too much money can give you that. When your father has everything, you grew up in such privilege. You're not looking to research the ants. You're not really interested because you're just a lucky go fellow guy. You want to just have, like, drink, party, and just be okay all of your life. What that happens, you have children who don't even think about wealth, and gradually, before you know it, you give to children that live in poverty. So then they go back to ground zero. So how do you therefore build a sustainable wealth such that when your privileged background gives you that bumper to go up, not to bring your generation down?
Education.
It's not always education.
It's education. Education is not that you went to school.
Some people are educated, they are rich.
Once I say education, the assumption is the person went to school, did masters. No. Education, when you have there's a program I did with Praise for Wowe about the family system and family system engineering. And it is an intentional journey, because some families, the Carnegie family till tomorrow, Rockefeller family till tomorrow, they've had the money across several generations,
centuries.
And yet they still have children who carry on the legacy, because the children are educated to understand the responsibility and the values of the family. As a nation, we can actually create education to help us understand the values of our nation and carry on the legacy of building wealth. We went to China. They had poverty. Poverty with hunchback, the kind of poverty that we are trying to get ourselves. Yes, serious one. And they took a decision to educate themselves and build a system with value. We've discussed it a few times that we said Japan. That Japan has education, but education is not about just going to school, but the value of honoring, bowing down to greet, the fact that everybody must solve a problem, everything must be neat, we must solve problems. We're not just building businesses to make money. I had a conversation with somebody that was going to talk about a business idea, and I said, this business is not new. This business you want to do is not solving any problem. You are just trying to find a gap to milk money from more people. I said, that's not what I want you to do. I need you to be creative. Think about a business that will solve real problems.
Let me answer. So for me, the answer is building character, having values, having principles. And when you have that, then it's not money you're chasing. But the truth is, just as I said before we went on the break, what a lot of us have is materialism. We're chasing, that is the only value, that's the only principle that we have, getting more and more and more. I read someone on X had posted, it says, if you look at it, most of the billionaires that we have, or we've had over generations and today, is that it's just a very few of them that made their billions from maybe inventing something or solving a problem for people. And somehow, they didn't go out to be billionaires, but somehow in helping people or inventing something, they made money from it. He says you always see that most of those billionaires are different from those who made their money because they took advantage of the vulnerable. Because there are many billionaires, he says that there are even more than those ones, who the way they made their billions is took advantage of a lapse in judgment of someone, the vulnerable, a system, you take it. So that your drive now is not about value, it's not about purpose. It's about how can I take advantage. And that is what you now push to the next generation. And that is where, when you have stolen from everybody and taken advantage of everybody, then what? Then there's no contentment, there's no happiness, you know. And then you find yourself, you find a billionaire sitting down miserable, and you're wondering, you have everything, why are you miserable? Or you have a billionaire sit down with you that has a lot less and say, you're so rich and so blessed that you have this, that your children are like this.
Surround your table.
So what's important really? What is your character? What do you think is important in this world? Do you build relationships? Or just throw money at people so that they can just surround you and hail you and be your yes man and yes woman? Do you understand? Do you allow yourself to be accountable to people that love you? Or you think you're entitled to everything and anything and your ego is important?
Comments
more important than anything.
Yeah, so I personally do not believe in sustainable wealth. I believe in sustainable purpose, because wealth can go. Your family can have vast lands, they have built companies, one government comes in, changes a policy, and everything just goes down the drain. What now sustains you is you coming together to understand what is the purpose for which I am doing this. If your purpose is not bigger than you, then it's not even worth venturing into. So people who have been able to sustain, because with your purpose will still come the addition. The wealth is the addition to the value that you're giving as a virtue of following your purpose. Those people who are able to sustain are those who have clear intentions of their purpose. They know where they are going, not just for themselves, for humanity. Because the truth of the matter is, we're not here to serve ourselves. We are here to serve the world. We're supposed to be channels. So if you have, and it's not flowing to the right places, it's not flowing, at some point it will become stagnant and it will stop flowing. So people who have sustained are those who are able to have their outreaches. They know that, okay, we are here solving a problem, we're here taking care of this, we're here, it's bigger than them. So even when they go and it disappears, because that purpose still lives on, God will always raise people to hold it strong.
Let me ask this question, because we're running out of time. Is a better name, like a good name,
better
than riches? Because somebody will tell you today that,
in which
don't
country?
leave me name. Because if you leave me name, nice, open door, but doesn't guarantee that I'll get access. But leave me some riches. I mean, as a young person, I used to, I think I've complained here before that. I appreciate my father's name, no doubt about it. I mean, we could say, go certain places, but it didn't mean that we have a house in Ikoyi. Doesn't mean that, because I know my father had opportunity to get house in Dolphin. I know he had opportunity to get house in Oshapa, London. I knew when those things came, and he was, I mean, though he bought some here and there, but he sold, he was not really, those things did not mean to him. And I know when his friends were buying those places, and I see the value of those places today. And I drive past those places and I'm thinking, Popsy.
Okay. So the reason why a lot of us we even think to have this argument, I even think to ask if a name is less important or more important than wealth and riches, is because really our society is a bit warped. We have seen people who have made money in the wrong way, and somehow they have sustained it over the years. But there'll come a time where things will change. A name is better. I have seen people that they left the Ikoyi homes too. They don't have those homes today. They don't have those homes today. And unfortunately for them, they don't even have the name. Because the name was not associated with anything good. So it's not a name that it got them money, it got them physical, material things, but it's gone. They didn't teach them how to keep it. They didn't teach them how to sustain it. They didn't understand the importance of having quality relationships. They didn't understand anything, and it's gone. So a name is more enduring than anything. And that's why a good name is very important, because you can have a bad name and it will follow you from generation to generation. So yes, you may look at it as, I would rather have had a home. But here you are in your home. Don't mind that.
And
She's in her home.
And if we have fantastic right now, in addition to that,
So probably if you had dropped it, you may not have it today.
See, a name any day, anytime is now left for me to work the name. So the difference is now you did not work the name because you also don't like stress, right? Imagine your father's name was my father's name. I will use it. I would have used it.
Well
no, I'm getting it, but the way I will use it is not the way she's using it. I would have used it and I would have gotten the things that I needed to get. But for me, the most important thing is the name because the name will open the doors. And if you have been raised right, on networking and managing that name, it will give you more. And if you have that personal drive
do you
to
know
find
that
success,
name does
that
not
name will
even
help
need you. That's the people who don't understand. That name does not even need her to be hustling like you are hustling. The name has done the work ahead of her. She just needs to step into the door and she would. And I'm not talking of her, but I'm just talking of people.
Step in.
Yes,
I believe generally that
a good name.
A good name, obviously, is better than riches. I feel that when you already have a good name, because we know that name is currency, integrity is money. If you have a name that can bring integrity to you,
forget.
It's similar to what BCC I wanted to say, that a prince that does not know that he's a prince would walk and live like a pauper until you come to the realization that I am a prince.
So true.
The name you have until you enter into the consciousness that this name is more than silver and gold. When you connect that gold and silver and gold, you will see the silver and gold everywhere that would come up, which would last much more than any silver and gold that could have been left.
The name is a solid foundation.
That's all we can take.
I can't believe that that's all we discussed
any
today.
comment?
As if we discussed it.
You people not see any comments.
We saw comments.
So
our fans, thank you. Most of the youth are into tech. That's from Oluwaseun Olatunde. And they make dollars from Nigerians in Nigeria. We are doing so well. Stripe came from Obodo Oyinbo and bought a part of Nigeria created pay stack, which employs Nigerians. So
poverty with dignity is when you can afford the basics of human sustenance. In today's Nigeria, poor people have fallen out of the bottom and struggling to stay afloat with basic challenges. I assure you, some unscrupulous clergy have labeled it as sin. Except we are pretending poverty in Nigeria is a terrible thing to be avoided at all costs. It is an offense in Nigeria to be poor. And now unscrupulous clergy have even called poverty a sin. This is why today it's get rich or die trying.
One comment, Samzi says,
fire.
It's the role of government to eliminate extreme forms of poverty. That is what welfare is for, to provide citizens with the basics in times of vulnerability so they can contribute to nation building.
You know whose view I would have loved to hear on this show?
Whose view?
Nima.
That's
all we can take on this segment of the show today. Tomorrow is another day. Have a lovely day. See you then. Bye for now.
Bye.